Hello everyone and welcome back. We got another news video here to discuss. We're looking at some of the signings that have been over the past couple of days. We're looking at some injury updates from the past few days. We're looking at another coaching change. The Leafs don't have a head coach at this point in time, starting their new head coaching shirt, so we got some more interesting updates about that. Plus the Senators and Blues now have new head coaches, so we'll talk about that. We're also going to look at the last few trophy finalists, and we're going to look at some trade rumors involving the Minnesota Wild, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Ottawa Senators, and the Edmonton Oilers. And we'll go to all that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Edmonton Talkie channel. Before we begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for your support. I'm able to with all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. And don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below discussing today's video. Now, as usual, I'm going to start today's video off by discussing some signings from over the past couple of days. We had 7 signings over the time frame from May 2nd to May 6th. So we'll get to all of those signings here and hopefully get to the rest of them in our next news video. So to start with here, we have the Winnipeg Jets giving an ELC to goaltending prospect Thomas Milic. Milic, who's like we said, a goaltender, was a 2023 5th round pick, gets a 3-year ELC with AV of $841,000 that'll begin at the start of next year. Milic had played in WHL last year, had 2.08 GAA, a 928 save percentage in 33 games, looked pretty good. This year in 33 AHL games, had 900 save percentage and a 2.72 GAA. Looks like a pretty good player, could maybe eventually be Hellebuyck's backup, so it's a pretty good sign there for the Jets, and I think Milic could eventually be a really good player, so that's a pretty good sign there for Winnipeg. Then we saw the Montreal Canadiens sign 2022 3rd round pick Adam Engstrom, who's a left shot defenseman, to a 3-year ELC with AV of $897,000 that'll begin at the start of next year. Engstrom's been playing over in the SHL. Last year had 6 goals and 16 points in 43 SHL games. This year it had 4 goals and 22 points in 51 SHL games. So looks like a pretty good prospect. I think eventually could be a solid, maybe 3rd pair defenseman for the Canadiens, so it's a pretty good sign there for Montreal to get him under contract. Then we saw the new Utah franchise make their first official signing in franchise history as they signed a 2023 3rd round pick of the Arizona Coyotes, Noel Nord, who's a winger, to a 3-year ELC with AV of $865,000 that'll begin at the start of next year. He played in the SHL last year, put up a goal in 10 SHL games. This year been playing over in Allsvenskan, had 6 goals and 15 points in 50 Allsvenskan games. So looks like a pretty good player. I think eventually should be a solid, maybe 3rd line winger there for the new Utah franchise. So that's pretty good stuff there for Utah. Going over to the New Jersey Devils, they signed another player in Jacob Malik, who was a 2021 4th round pick. He's a goalie. He signs a 2-year ELC with the AV of $950,000 that'll be at the start of next year. He's been playing over in Liga the past couple of years. Has a 2.15 GAA, 903 save percentage in 22 games last year. This year had 2.31 GAA and 915 save percentage in 27 Liga games. So looks like a pretty good player. Once again, another young goaltender for New Jersey Devils. So good to see him get his ELC. Then the Carolina Hurricanes signed 2023 5th round pick Charles Alexis Legao, who's a right shot defenseman, to a 3-year ELC with AV of $916,000 that'll be at the start of next year. Legao's been playing over in the NCAA over the past couple of years. Had 2 goals and 9 points in 40 games last year. This year had 9 goals and 24 points in 39 NCAA games. So looks a lot better this year. I think eventually could be a solid 3rd pair defenseman for the Hurricanes. So it's a pretty good pickup there for Carolina. And then the 2 biggest ELCs that have happened over the past couple of days. First, Seamus Casey, who's a right shot defenseman, a 2022 2nd round pick of the New Jersey Devils, signed his 3-year ELC with AV of $950,000. That'll be at the start of next year. A lot of people think Casey's probably the 3rd best prospect on the blue line for the Devils, behind Hughes and Nemec. Casey last year on the NCAA level had 8 goals and 29 points in 37 games. This year was over a point per game as a defenseman, putting up 7 goals and 45 points in 40 games and looked fantastic. So that was a pretty good sign there for the Devils. Casey may need some time in the AHL, but I think eventually should be a solid top 4 defenseman for the Devils. So to see him sign is really good. Good things there for the New Jersey Devils. And then we also saw the Detroit Red Wings sign right shot defenseman Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who was a 1st round pick of last year's draft in the 2023 draft, to a 3-year ELC with AV of $950,000 $30,000. That'll be at the start of next year. Pellikka's been playing over in the SHL. Last year in his draft year, had 2 goals and 5 points in 22 SHL games. This year, had 10 goals and 18 points in 39 SHL games. That looked fantastic in the SHL. I think eventually, he may still need a year or two to develop in the SHL or the AHL, but I think Pellikka eventually could be a solid, fantastic top 4 defenseman for the Red Wings, so that's another pretty good signing for Detroit. But those are 7 signings from the past couple of days. Also interesting ones, interesting to see Casey and Malek get ELCs in Jersey, Legel get an ELC in Carolina, Pellikka ELC in Detroit, Nordh ELC in Utah, Engstrom ELC in Montreal, and Milic ELC in Winnipeg. So lots of interesting stuff there, and hopefully those guys are able to get into the lineup next year, or at least have really good chances at. But still, some interesting signings from over the past couple of days. Going over to a quick injury update here for the past few days. Not too much here to look at. So late last week, we got a couple of injury updates. First, Keefe was cleared to play by the Colorado Avalanche. That's good news for them. Philip Hedl was cleared to play for the New York Rangers. I think he even got into a game action. So the fact that he missed a ton of time due to injuries, and Hedl's now back in the lineup, is fantastic stuff there for the Rangers. Although I think they have to be really cautious with the amount of time he's missed due to concussions. Spencer Stastny was cleared to play, but the Predators have been eliminated from playoff contention. Mason Marchment was cleared to play for Dallas, got back in the game action. So that's fantastic stuff there. Connor Dewar has a shoulder injury, he's out for a period of time, but once again, leaves out of the playoffs, doesn't really matter for them right now. Andrew Peeke in Boston and Sam Bennett in Florida were both clear to play and got back in the game action, so that's a big boost there for the Bruins and the Panthers. We also saw Brad Marchand have a upper body injury. A lot of people think it's a concussion from a punch that he took to the face from Sam Bennett. That's possible, and he's out day right now, so that's a bad blow for the Bruins. Danton Heinen has been cleared to play for the Boston Bruins. That's good news. Henrique has undisclosed injuries out day for the Edmonton Oilers. That's a bad blow there for the Oilers. Devon Tays has undisclosed injuries out for a period of time, so that's a bad blow there for Colorado. Jonathan Drouin was able to get back into game action yesterday. He had a lower body injury, kept him out for the entirety of the first round, plus the first 2 games of the second round. So getting him back is really good stuff. Alex Lyon in Detroit had a hand injury. He's going to be out for a period of time, but so once again, Wings not in the playoffs, so not overly significant there, but still interesting injury updates. And also Rupert Hintz' upright injury is out for a period of time for the Dallas Stars. So some interesting injury updates there. Good to see guys like Hedl, Marchment, Peeke, and Bennett get back in the game action, but bad news to see guys like Dewar, Henrique, Lyon, and Tays all suffer injuries, and hopefully those guys are able to get back and not just in the future. So some interesting stuff there. Going over to the final 4 trophy finalists I never talked about over the past couple of days. So last we talked about, we had the Jack Adams Award. We talked about who were the finalists there. So then we had 4 more trophy finalists that have been announced since then. First, the Lady Byng trophy has been announced. The trophy goes to the best judge of sportsmanship as well as a high level of play. And the finalists for that trophy is Austin Matthews, Elias Pettersson, and Jacob Slavin. All 3 are really good players this past year, and we're all really good sportsmanship players. So those 3 are the finalists. I'm not sure who will win. Matthews, Pettersson, Slavin, all are really good players. So it'll be interesting to see who wins, but those are the 3 finalists for Lady Byng. Then the Selke trophy for the best defensive forward. First, Barkov in Florida, Matthews in Toronto, and Stahl in Carolina. Stahl in Carolina, in my opinion, is a little bit of a surprise, but he was a really good defensive forward this year. Barkov probably does wind up winning it, but those are some interesting finalists. Then you got the interesting one in the Hart Trophy. The 3 finalists were McDavid, Kucherov, and McKinnon. Now, too surprised there. There was some talk that they could have Matthews in there, Panarin in there. There's some outside shot about Hellebuck. But interesting for sure to see Kucherov, McKinnon, and McDavid be a finalist for the Hart Trophy. I think there's a very likely chance that Kucherov does wind up winning it. But it'll be interesting to see exactly if McKinnon and McDavid stand a chance to. And lastly, the Ted Lindsay Award, which is given out to the most outstanding player voted by his peers. The 3 players who were finalists for that was McKinnon, Kucherov, and Matthews. So not overly surprised there. All 3 of those guys, once again, have fantastic seasons. I'm not exactly sure who wins that trophy, but all 3 of those guys are really good players. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up winning there. But those were the finalists for the Lady Byng, Selke, Hart, and Ted Lindsay trophies. And it'll be interesting to see who are going to be the winners for all of those trophies later when we find out who won the award. So some interesting stuff there. But those are some interesting things to happen over the past couple of days. Next, going over to a coaching change that's happened happened, plus a couple of coaching signings. So first, as a lot of people were expecting, the Toronto Maple Leafs did fire Sheldon Keefe. Keefe was, at the point in time, the 5th longest tenured head coach in the NHL. Keefe started coaching on November 20th, 2019. Did really well, had 3 seasons, had really good success with the Leafs, so they gave him a 2-year extension. That was ending this year. They gave him another 2-year extension that's not going to be able to finish out, so bad stuff there for the Leafs. But that's an interesting firing. I mean, it's not too surprising. Keefe has had 5 seasons to take the Maple Leafs far, and he's made the playoffs every single year, but he's never been able to make it out of the first round besides last year. So I'm not overly surprised he needed some change. I think that could be a really good move there for the Leafs to fire Keefe, so interesting stuff there. Keefe had held the head coaching position in Toronto from November 20th, 2019 to May 9th, 2024, so 4.5 years as the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Was a pretty good head coach there for Toronto. And I think that's a pretty good move there for the Leafs to finally fire Keefe and hopefully bring a new voice. So no precise terms on who exactly is going to be the new head coach. It sounds like they're conducting interviews right now with guys like Craig Berube and Todd McClellan, probably a couple of other guys in there too, so we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens there. But I think a lot of people thought it was coming. Keefe, as much as he had a lot of regular season success, didn't have much playoff success with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that this team needs to start winning playoff series and getting deeper and deeper into the playoffs, so I think changes were coming. Everyone thought it was coming, and I think that it's not too surprised Keefe winds up being fired. So some interesting stuff there. So we do have another coaching fire, and it's another guy we're going to have to watch out for the vacant coaching positions, on top of having another team who's going to have a need for a new coach. So interesting stuff there. He did have an extension, like we said, that's now nullified. He's not going to be coaching in Toronto with the extension, so interesting stuff there. But the Leafs do end up moving on from Keefe, and we'll have to see who they get as new head coach. And then we do have a couple other coaching updates here, just to recap. First, the St. Louis Blues removed the interim tag from head coach Drew Bannister. I think they signed to a 2-year contract, if I'm correct, so that's an interesting signing. Bannister did keep the Blues competitive all season. They were the closest team to making the playoffs in the West who didn't, so Bannister looks like a pretty good head coach. Not overly surprised that they brought him back. I thought they might have gone in a different direction, but Bannister's a really good coach. He showed that this year, and I think he should be a really good, fantastic coach for St. Louis Blues. So good to see him get his 2-year contract extension, and now he isn't just the interim head coach of the St. Louis Blues. You know, the Ottawa Senators have signed Travis Green to be their new head coach, so that's a little bit of a surprise. I thought I would have gone for someone who's a little bit more bigger names, like a Evison or a McClellan or a Woodcroft or a Berube or someone like that, but they wound up going with Travis Green. Green does have head coaching experience from his time back in Vancouver, and he has had assistant coaching experience plus interim coaching experience in New Jersey, so interesting signing there. I'm not exactly sure if Green is the perfect coach to take Ottawa into the playoffs, but I do think he can be a decent coach, and I think it might be the fit that Ottawa needs. So it's an intriguing one in my opinion, given the fact that I was not expecting it, but I do think it's an interesting hiring there for the Senators. So some interesting stuff there, but the Senators do hire Travis Green as their new head coach, and he'll be signed for the next couple of seasons, so interesting stuff there for the Senators. But those are the 3 coaching updates we have over the past couple of days. Toronto's fired Sheldon Keefe for taking interviews with guys like Berube, McClellan. Keefe now being fired is taking interviews with New Jersey to be their new head coach, and we saw Ottawa sign Travis Green to be their new head coach, and Drew Bannister is going to remain the St. Louis Blues head coach. Just some interesting coaching updates there from the past couple of days. And lastly, going over to a couple of trade rumors. First, with Minnesota Wild, could we see the Wild trade a couple of interesting pieces? Now, I've seen this come up multiple times over the past couple of weeks, and I think it's time we talked about this. First, Filip Gustavsson and Marco Rossi. Both of these guys have been sort of being floated around in the trade rumor mill, and that's a little bit surprising to me. I think a lot of people would find that a little bit surprising. Gustavsson had a fantastic season, not this year, but last year. Had one of his best seasons ever, earned himself a 3-year contract extension with the AV of $3.4 million. And then this past year was a really shaky goaltender at this point in time. Not definitely living up to a $3.4 million cap hit. So I got a lot of people talking. Fleury's going to be back for another year. So with Fleury being back and the Wild potentially wanting to have Wallstead at the NHL level, that's led to a lot of people thinking, could Gustavsson be moved? It's possible. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee. They could leave Wallstead in the AHL for one more season while Fleury has his final season. And maybe Fleury winds up leaving and they have a Gustavsson-Wallstead tandem next year. It's possible, but I also think that with the way Gustavsson played last year, if they could move on from him, maybe bring in a decent goaltender after Fleury to be Wallsted's tandem partner, I think that might be another interesting option there too for the Wild. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens there. But Gustavsson may be another name on the goalie market. Plus, if you look at Marco Rossi, a lot of people think that the future top 6 centers for the Minnesota Wild are Daniil Yurov, who's currently in the KHL right now, and Eric Sinek, who's a fantastic top-line center. So with that in mind, a lot of people think that Rossi's sort of being boxed out as like a top 6 center, and that they may wind up moving him. Now, Rossi's cheap, cost-controlled for the next couple of seasons. I don't think they really would want to move him. But Rossi, in my opinion, is a really good middle 6 center, and I think on a lot of teams, especially with his cap hits, he would be a fantastic piece for a team. So if there's a team out there who pays up the right price, I think it's possible you could see Rossi move, but I also wouldn't be overly shocked if he was back with Minnesota next year. So no guarantees these two guys get moved by Minnesota. Some interesting situations in both sides, but I think Gustavsson is a possibility to be moved, with the Wild maybe wanting Fleury and Wallstead as their tandem next year. Well, I think it's also possible that we could see Rossi be moved if they don't really see a long-term fit with him in the top 6. So interesting stuff there, but could we see Rossi and Gustavsson be moved? It's possible. Before we get to Edmonton, I do want to talk about 2 potential trades that I'm going to discuss here today. First was the Maple Leafs and the New York Islanders. Now, I talked about this over the past couple of days. I've linked Marner to the Islanders for quite some time. I'm just going to give you my mock trade here for the Leafs and the Islanders if they were to make a Marner trade. Remember, this is just purely my speculation. Nothing else has happened at this point in time. But I would say that a trade to acquire Marner for the Islanders would be as follows. The Islanders acquire Mitch Marner. At this point in time, I don't think they would acquire him with an extension, just given the fact of how expensive an extension would be for them. So I would say that maybe not an extension at this point in time, but Marner in the entry final year of his deal will be acquired by the New York Islanders in exchange for the 18th overall pick in the 2024 draft, Ryan Pulock, and Oliver Wahlstrom. Now, that'll be a really good package there for the Leafs. Would the Islanders be willing to do this without an extension? I'm not sure. Maybe it's possible. I think if there was an extension, the Isles might have to have one more piece, whether that be like a 2nd or 3rd round pick or a mid-level prospect. Not exactly sure what they would do, but I think that would be a decent trade for both sides. For the Islanders, they get Mitch Marner and they're able to plug him into a top 6, and they can put him on the wing of either Horvat or Barzal. That would be a fantastic pickup there for the Islanders team, who needs goal scoring badly and needs to try and go after it this offseason. We've talked about this multiple times this year, so I think this is a potential really good move there for the Islanders. For the Leafs, they get a top pair right shot defenseman Ryan Pulock, who can play top pair minutes with Morgan Riley. They get Oliver Wahlstrom, who's not worked out overly well with the Islanders, but I think could be a really good solid 3rd line goal scorer for the team at the Toronto Maple Leafs. And they get a 1st round pick, which they can either use to draft someone, or they can move to try and upgrade their team in other places. So that'll be interesting. I think at least would probably also have to retain a little bit of money, given how high Marner's cap it is, but still, that'll be a really interesting move. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this type of a move. Would a Marner for Pulock, Wahlstrom, and a 1st round pick work for both sides? And if so, who do you think would win that sort of a deal? Definitely have your guys' thoughts on that down in the comment section below. I think that's a deal that could work out for both sides. Another deal that I think could work out for both sides will be the Ottawa Senators moving Jakob Chychrun to the Winnipeg Jets. In my opinion, a sort of easy trade that I could see happen would be the Senators move Jakob Chychrun plus Tyler Boucher, who's a really good young prospect, to the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for right shot defenseman Neil Pionk, for top 6 winger Nikolai Ehlers, and a 2026 3rd round pick. Now, this, in my opinion, will work out for both sides. I think if the Senators are able to move Chychrun to the Jets, that'll be a fantastic pickup there for Winnipeg. Chychrun, in my opinion, could be a really good 2nd pair left shot defenseman behind Morrissey. Be a really good puck moving defenseman. I think he could be exactly what that Jets team is looking for right now, especially with guys like Dylan and DeMello both leaving. I think that would be a fantastic pickup there for the Jets. And if they could sign him to an extension too, something like 7-year deal, around $7.5 million AAV deal, I think that would be a fantastic pickup there for the Jets. So I have Chychrun going to Winnipeg. They also get Tyler Boucher, who could be another really good young forward, add to a young forward group that eventually could include guys like Perfetti, Lambert, Lucius, Barlow, a lot of really good prospects there for the Jets in the forward group. So they add another one here. In exchange exchange. The Senators are able to get Neil Pionk, who's a solid top 4 right shot defenseman. He's not the best right shot defenseman out there, but would definitely help balance out that top 4 in Ottawa a little bit more. You'd have Pionk and Zub on the right side. You'd have Sanderson and Chabot on the left side. The D pairs would definitely be a lot more balanced at that point in time. You'd also have Nikolai Ehlers, who is a solid top 6 winger. They lost Tarasenko. They're probably going to lose Kubalik this offseason. So with those two guys they brought in to replace the Brinkett now gone, they need another goal-scoring winger. So add Ehlers to top 6, place him with guys like Stützle or Tkachuk or Batherson or Giroux. You're having yourself another fantastic offensive weapon. Both those guys are going to be interested in finding out their deals. Not sure if there will be an extension for either one of those two guys at that point in time, but that will be interesting. And then they also got another draft pick in a couple of years' time, 2026 third rounder. So I think this trade could work out for both sides. For the Jets, I think they would be able to get a solid left shot defenseman. If they could get an extension, they could have Morrissey and Chychrun for a long time on their left side, so that'd be fantastic. They also get another young forward prospect in Boucher who could work really well with the other guys in that forward group long term. While the Senators are able to get a solid top 4 right shot defenseman, Pionk, who can definitely help even out the deep pairings on the left and right side. They get a solid goal scoring winger and Nikolai Ehlers, who could definitely help replace the production left by Tarasenko and Kubalik. And they also get a 2026 third round pick, which helps them a little bit with their draft capital. So that's fantastic moves there by the Winnipeg Jets and Ottawa Senators. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that potential trade. Remember, just my speculation down in the comment section below. And lastly, are the Edmonton Oilers at the verge of moving on from their goaltending? Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the offseason when Campbell was struggling, how they could potentially move on from Campbell. Could they potentially also move on from Stuart Skinner? Now, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but Skinner is one of the worst playoff goaltenders in the NHL history. His save percentage of .881 through 20 games is the worst since the 2005 lockout, the second worst since 1990, and the 12th worst all time with goalies who have started more than 20 games. So that's absolutely awful for the Oilers, who have not been able to have Skinner have a really good run. Skinner has first taste of playoff action last year, did pretty good, but was pulled multiple times in the second round against Vegas. This year was pulled against Vancouver in the second round, did not look overly good. In 6 of the 8 games he's played in the playoffs this year between LA and Vancouver, he's given up 3+ goals. It's not working out for the Edmonton Oilers. It sounds like they're going to Picker, so it's a really bad look there for Skinner. So will the Oilers consider moving Campbell and Skinner? It's going to be interesting to see, but could the Oilers try and overhaul their goaltending? Maybe try and dump off Campbell's contract or potentially even buy him out? Not saying that's a likely option, but that's a possibility. And then could they try and move Skinner? And if so, and if they move both these guys, could they be one of the teams who enters in the goalie market? I mean, could they go after Saros? Could they go after Markstrom, Merzlikins, Gibson, Ullmark, Vejmelka? There's a lot of really good starting level goaltenders out there right now who I think could definitely make that Oilers team better, as I don't think Skinner is the goaltender to get the Edmonton Oilers to the Stanley Cup. I mean, even if they were to beat the Vancouver Canucks in the second round series, the way they're playing right now with the goaltending they have, they ain't beating Colorado or Dallas. So that's just a simple fact. So at this point in time, could the Oilers move Skinner and Campbell? Could they move both guys and bring in a guy like Saros or Markstrom or Merzlikins or Gibson or Ullmark or Vejmelka or someone like that? Is that a possibility we could see the Oilers do if they were to get bounced either early in the conference final or at some point in the second round against Vancouver? If they get bounced at some point in the second round or early in the conference final, I think there's a very likely chance both Skinner and Campbell are no longer Oilers by the start of next year, and the Oilers are going to be targeting a starting level goaltender heavily this offseason. So we're going to have to wait and see exactly what happens there. But is this potentially the last game Skinner's played in an Edmonton Oilers jersey? And if so, where do you think Skinner could go if they were to move him? Where do you think Campbell could go if they were to move him or if they were to buy him out? And if so, who do you think the Oilers try and target this offseason if they were to try and get some goalie upgrades? Definitely let you guys thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. So I'm going to talk about for today. What do you think about the Oilers? Do they move Skinner? Do they move Campbell? Do they add a new starter? Definitely give your thoughts on that. What do you think about my mock trade for the Jets and the Senators, as well as the Leafs and the Islanders? Do you think Rossi and Gustavsson get moved by the Wild? And if so, where do they go? And what do you think about the trophy finalists, the coaching updates, as well as the injury updates and the signing news? Definitely have your thoughts on all that down in the comment section below. So I'm going to talk for today. Until like this video, if you're like to subscribe down below. Thank you all for your support and those who help you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment down in the comment section below so I'll discuss in today's video. Also a blog type of news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So if you check that out, leave a link down in the description below. Can't see you guys all for next video. See you guys soon.